After my wife died, her sister moved in to help with the kids. She was kind, generous, always there. Until I walked into the kitchen at 3 a.m. and heard her telling my son. He could have saved her. He just didn't want to. I froze. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Go ahead. Deny it." I didn't. But the next day, I opened my wife's old laptop and found something she had saved that changed everything. After reading those posts Alyssa wrote, I sat there for a long time. My hands were shaking so bad I thought I was gonna throw up. I had to get out of the attic. I needed air. But I couldn't look at her. Not yet. She was downstairs making pancakes like she hadn't just whispered poison into my son's ear. Like she didn't dream of my wife dying. It was all fake. Every hug, every time she rubbed my back when I cried, every time she read to Maddie in her soft voice. It was all part of a plan. My wife died in pain and this woman, her own sister, was using that to slide into her spot. That night, I slept on the couch. I told her I was having back pain again. She just smiled and said, "Let me know if you need a heating pad." Like we were some kind of couple. The way she said it made my stomach turn. I couldn't just throw her out. Not yet. Dylan was already confused. He looked at me weird that whole day, like he was trying to figure out if what Alyssa said was true. I couldn't give him more chaos. I couldn't rip the rug out from under Maddie again either. Not until I had something solid. Something undeniable. So I started digging more. Every night after the kids went to bed, I sat in the garage with Rachel's old laptop. I went through her emails, her cloud storage, everything. There was a folder she never told me about. Private. Inside were screenshots. Some texts. I almost dropped the laptop when I saw the sender name. It was Alyssa. The texts were from almost 2 years ago. Some of them were clearly from when Rachel was first starting to get sick but didn't know it yet. In one message, Rachel had written, "Been having this chest pain again. It's probably just stress. But if it doesn't stop by Friday, I'll go in." Alyssa's reply? "You worry too much. Probably just anxiety. You always overthink every little thing. Don't waste money on tests." Another one, Rachel said, "I keep feeling exhausted. Like I'm moving through water. I need to see someone." And Alyssa replied, "What's a doctor going to say? You're tired. You're a mom. Take a nap." I kept scrolling. Over and over, Alyssa downplayed it. Told her to ignore her body. And Rachel listened. She trusted her sister. But it went further. Rachel sent a message about a weird lump she found in her side. This was 6 months before her diagnosis. "It's probably nothing, right?" Alyssa's answer? "Of course. Don't go Googling it and making yourself sick. You're being dramatic." That was the word that hit me, dramatic. She convinced Rachel she was being dramatic while her body was rotting inside. While the cancer spread. And then I found the last text Rachel ever sent to her. It was one sentence. "You told me not to go." She didn't reply. I knew what I had to do next. I copied every file. Every screenshot. I backed it up to a USB drive. I printed the Reddit posts too. Then I called Gina, Rachel's best friend, and asked if we could meet, just us. I met her at a diner about 30 minutes away so the kids wouldn't overhear anything. I showed her everything. She cried reading it. Real, deep crying. Not just from sadness, but fury. "You're gonna let her keep living in your house?" she said. "No," I told her. "But when I kick her out, I want to make sure the door hits her so hard she never tries to come back." We came up with a plan. The next week, I acted normal. I smiled. I thanked her. I even let her brush her hand against mine when we were cleaning up after dinner. She was starting to get comfortable. She thought she'd won. I could see it in the way she walked around the house, like she owned it now. Like the space my wife used to breathe in belonged to her. And that's when I started laying the trap. I asked Alyssa if she could watch the kids overnight next Friday. I told her I needed to get away for a bit. She smiled and said, "Of course." She looked like she wanted to ask if she should come with me, but she didn't. Not yet. Friday night came. I kissed the kids goodnight. Told Alyssa thank you again. She stood at the door like a wife seeing her husband off to work. What she didn't know was that I wasn't going anywhere. Gina picked me up 2 blocks over and we parked outside. I had already called a lawyer. Already made arrangements. And I had also set up something special for that night, a confrontation. With witnesses. I knew Alyssa would call her best friend, Melissa, like she always did after the kids went to bed. They'd talk on speakerphone in the kitchen. What she didn't know was that the camera I hid in the corner of the cabinet. It wasn't just recording, it was streaming. I had 3 people watching it live. She sat there, glass of wine in hand, laughing. Then she said it. I swear to God, Melissa, if he doesn't make a move soon, I'm just going to wear her old robe and walk into his room. Men are so easy. It's pathetic. She sipped her wine and kept going. You know what the best part is? Dylan actually thinks I care about what happened to Rachel. I almost laughed when he cried in front of me. Kids are too easy. That was all I needed. We walked back into the house together. Me, Gina, and a woman named Denise from the lawyer's office, who was acting as a witness. When Alyssa saw us, she froze. What are you doing back? She said, her voice shaking. I stared at her. Hard. You wanted a place in this house. You wanted my wife's life. Well, guess what? You're done pretending. I pulled out the laptop and hit play on the audio files I had saved. Her Reddit posts. Her texts. The whole ugly truth. She turned pale. Started stammering. You, Tom, please, I didn't mean, you meant every word. I said. And now everyone's going to hear them. Alyssa's mouth kept opening and closing like she didn't know which lie to tell first. She looked at Gina. You believe me, right? I was just venting online. Everyone does that. You've said stuff like that before too. Gina didn't say a word. She just stared at her like she was something rotting in the sink. Then Alyssa turned to me. I helped you, Tom. I raised your kids when you were falling apart. I kept this family together. You think Rachel wouldn't have wanted that? I stepped forward. Rachel didn't want you. She warned me. She knew you'd try to take her place. Her face twisted. So what? I'm not allowed to love you. I do love you. I loved you first. She knew that. She took you from me, and now I'm just getting back what should have been mine. You sound insane. I said. No. She snapped. I sound honest. You should be thanking me. Without me, your kids would be in therapy or foster care by now. What did you do for them? Hide in the garage? Drink yourself into a coma? You gave up on Rachel. I stepped in. I fixed it. That's when Gina stepped forward. You didn't fix anything. You poisoned everything. You whispered lies to that little boy because you couldn't stand that his mother was loved more than you ever will be. Alyssa's eyes went wide, then narrowed. I should have been the one in that family photo. I would have made you happier than she ever did. The silence in that room was so heavy, you could have heard the neighbor's clock ticking across the street. I finally said, You're leaving. Tonight. Right now. No. You don't get to throw me out like garbage after everything I did. I'm not throwing you out. I said. The sheriff is. Right on cue, headlights lit up the driveway. I had already called the local sheriff's office earlier in the day. Explained the situation. Showed them the evidence. Because of the things she said to Dylan, and the mental games she played, it qualified as emotional abuse under our state laws. Enough for a temporary protective order. She panicked. You set me up? You bastard. You set me up. The deputy knocked once, then stepped in. I handed over the packet with all the files. Everything printed, labeled, organized. The camera footage. The Reddit posts. The text from Rachel. They gave Alyssa 20 minutes to pack a bag and leave. She started throwing things into her duffel bag, mumbling under her breath. When she walked past me, she stopped, inches from my face. You think this is over? She whispered. You think I'm just going to disappear? No. I said. I think you'll try to come back. That's why the lawyer already filed for a restraining order. You'll get the papers next week. She stared at me. Then looked over at Dylan, who had come downstairs without us noticing. He was standing halfway down the stairs, holding Maddie's stuffed bear. He heard everything. His face was red. His eyes were wet. Aunt Alyssa, he said. Mom died because she was sick. Not because Dad gave up. Alyssa's face crumpled. But no tears came. She just turned and walked out. The deputy followed. And just like that, she was gone. But things weren't fixed. The next few days were worse than the ones after Rachel died. Dylan wouldn't talk to me much. I could see the guilt on his face, like he was ashamed for believing her, even for a second. I tried to tell him it wasn't his fault, that adults can lie too, but he was already retreating into himself. Maddie asked if Aunt Lissa got lost. I told her she wouldn't be coming back. She didn't ask more than that. Then the letters started coming. Not in envelopes. Just folded papers slid into the mailbox. No return address. Some were blank inside. Some had only 1 or 2 words. Liar. Murderer. You let her die. I showed them to the police, but without prints or cameras on the box, There wasn't much they could do. Then I got the voicemail. A man's voice. One I didn't recognize. "You're lucky she still cares about you, man. If she didn't, I'd make sure you remembered her name with every breath." That was it. No ID. No trace. Alyssa had help. Someone else out there believed her twisted version of things. Someone who thought I was the villain. I changed the locks. I installed cameras. I walked the perimeter of my house every night, holding a bat like I was back in high school playing for Rainier High. But the worst part was that Rachel was gone. And she'd never know the storm her sister left behind. Or maybe she did know. Maybe that's why she wrote that letter. One morning, a few weeks later, Dylan finally handed me something. It was a drawing. Me, him, Maddie, and Rachel, in a park. He didn't say a word. Just went back to his room. But I knew what it meant. We were still a family. A broken one, maybe. But real. Things were calm for about 3 weeks. Then I got a call from the school counselor. Dylan had been getting into fights. Not just once. 3 times in a week. Nothing too violent, but enough that the principal wanted me to come in. When I sat down with the counselor, Mrs. Ritter, she showed me something Dylan had written for a class assignment. The topic was, write about someone you admire. His paper started off about me. But about halfway through, it turned into something else. It read, "I used to think my dad was a hero. Now I'm not sure. Everyone says he tried. But what if he didn't? What if my mom died because no one wanted to save her? I love him. But I don't know how to feel anymore." That ripped something open in me. It wasn't just Alyssa whispering poison into him anymore. It was already inside him, growing roots. And no matter how many times I told him the truth, I couldn't pull it all out. The counselor asked if we'd consider therapy. I said yes immediately. But as I left the school, something felt off. Like I was being watched. I turned and saw a black sedan parked across the street. Tinted windows. Engine still running. I stood there and stared at it. It pulled away slowly. I didn't think much of it at first. Until it happened again the next day. Different car, same thing. Always across from the school or near the grocery store. Always with someone behind the wheel who didn't get out. I told the cops. They said without a license plate or actual threat, there wasn't much they could do. That night I looked through Alyssa's social media again. She had locked most of it down. But her old Facebook was still public. There were new comments on some of her posts. People calling me a monster. Telling her she was brave. That she was. The real mother now. She was spreading the story. Quietly. Not using names. But enough detail that people believed her. That I had let Rachel die so I could be free. That I ignored her pain. That I was planning to leave her anyway. And then the last straw, I got a letter from CPS. Someone had filed a report. Neglect. Emotional abuse. Claiming I left Maddie alone for hours. That I'd been drinking again. That I'd lashed out and scared Dylan. It was all lies. But that didn't matter. They had to investigate. A woman came to the house. Checked every room. Asked the kids questions alone. Looked through the fridge, the bathrooms, the backyard. I cooperated with all of it. When she left, she said I seemed like a stable parent. But they'd still need to follow up. I sat in the living room that night staring at the ceiling while the kids slept. Alyssa wasn't just trying to replace Rachel. She was trying to erase me. That's when I decided to fight back. Really fight. I started with her Reddit account. I made a burner and messaged every person she'd interacted with on the threads where she lied about me. I sent them screenshots, the full truth. Her real name. Her fake stories. The camera footage. Everything. Half of them ignored me. But a few replied. One woman told me Alyssa had contacted her personally. That she was part of a Facebook group for women widowed by medical neglect, and Alyssa had been using that group to spread stories, hinting at my name and my kids. I reached out to the group admin, showed her the proof. She banned Alyssa. Took down her posts. Then I found out something even worse. Alyssa was trying to sue me. She had filed a petition in family court for emergency guardianship review, saying she believed I was unfit and wanted partial custody of my kids. Even after everything, she thought she had a shot. She listed herself as their primary caretaker since Rachel's death. Claimed I had left her responsible for all major decisions. Claimed Dylan had begged her to stay. Claimed I was emotionally unstable. I brought everything to my lawyer. He looked through the files and said, "This is going to get ugly. But we can destroy her if we do it right." "Good," I said. "Let's destroy her then." We prepared for court. I had character letters from Rachel's doctor, Gina, my boss, even the school counselor. I had the Reddit logs, the texts, the camera footage, the letter from Rachel. But we didn't file it all at once. We waited. We let Alyssa go first. Let her lay it all out. Lie after lie. In her petition, she wrote, "My sister trusted me to care for her children in the event of her passing. Thomas is grieving, yes, but he's erratic, neglectful, and emotionally abusive. I fear for their mental well-being." She even included a fake will, just a typed-up paragraph saying Rachel wished Alyssa to care for the children if she passed. No signature. No date. I wanted to scream. But I stayed quiet. Until our court date. The judge was a sharp old man with no patience for nonsense. The first half of the hearing, Alyssa's lawyer made her sound like a saint. She cried. Talked about reading bedtime stories. Taking them to therapy appointments. How I disconnected, and locked myself away. Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood and said, "We have evidence the petitioner manipulated, lied, and even emotionally abused the children and the respondent." He submitted Rachel's letter. The texts. The videos. The Reddit screenshots. The judge sat up straighter. Alyssa's face turned red. She started whispering to her lawyer. Then she stood up and shouted across the courtroom. "None of that proves anything. He did give up. He didn't even try the stem cell trial. He could have saved her." I stood up. She chose not to do it. She didn't want to spend her last weeks hooked up to tubes, in a facility 800 miles away. She was in pain. She wanted to be with her family. I turned to the judge. And her sister used that pain to twist our kids. To break them down so she could slide in. The judge stared at Alyssa for a long time. Then he spoke. "Petition denied. Permanently. And I'm referring this to the district attorney for possible charges of falsifying documents and malicious emotional interference." Alyssa screamed. "You don't know what he did! You don't know what she told me! He let her die!" But nobody listened. Not this time. Alyssa was dragged out of that courtroom screaming. It was like she couldn't believe the world didn't bend for her. I didn't say a word as they took her away. I didn't need to. But even with the case shut down, things didn't end there. About a week later, I got a call from the district attorney's office. They were formally investigating Alyssa. Turns out, this wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. In 2019, she lived with a different family friend after a messy breakup. Stayed there 6 months to help with the kids. That couple ended up divorced. The mom ended up in a psych ward for 3 weeks. Nothing was ever proven, but the pattern was there. She moved in, made herself indispensable, played the victim, then tried to take over. The DA's office wanted to press charges for falsifying a legal document and interference with custody. It wouldn't be a long sentence if she was convicted, maybe probation, maybe a little time. But it was something. I didn't think she'd show up for the court date. But she did. She came in with a new lawyer and a smug look on her face, like she thought she could still spin it. That maybe she could talk her way out of this too. But the DA had found more. They got a subpoena for her laptop. Inside was a folder called Plan B. It had notes, dates, photos of my house, the kids' school, screenshots of text messages she'd edited to make it look like I was angry and unstable. She'd been planning to fake texts, build a whole false timeline. Even the judge looked disturbed. She took a plea deal. 18 months probation, mandatory therapy, and she had to sign a no-contact order for me and the kids, effective for 5 years. I didn't clap. I didn't celebrate. But I did smile once when I saw her walking out in cuffs again, this time for violating the order just a week later when she messaged Dylan through a fake Instagram account. She spent 45 days in county jail. After that, she disappeared. Blocked on everything. No one's heard from her since. But even with her gone, the damage she left behind stayed with us. Dylan kept going to therapy. He stopped getting into fights. Slowly, he started opening up. He asked more questions about Rachel, real questions. About what happened, what she felt, what she wanted. I told him everything. All the hard stuff too. He needed to hear it. Maddie doesn't ask about Aunt Alyssa anymore. Sometimes she brings up Rachel like she's still in the house. I don't correct her. I think in some ways she is. As for me, I spent months angry. I hated Alyssa. I hated myself too. For not seeing it sooner. For letting her in. Forever letting Rachel doubt that she mattered more than anything. But then one night, while I was cleaning the attic again, I found another letter. I don't know how I missed it before. It was handwritten, folded inside a photo album. It wasn't labeled. Just started with, "If you're reading this, I hope Alyssa's gone," she wrote. "She's not evil. She's hurt. And when people carry hurt long enough, they either bury it or throw it at everyone who loves them. You were never hers to lose. But she believed you were. That's a dangerous thing. And then this part. Don't let her ruin you too. Don't live in rage. I know you're angry. I would be too. But the kids need more than anger. They need peace. Please give them that." I sat there and cried for a long time. Because she was right. I'd won the war, but I was still carrying Alyssa around in my head like a ghost. And Rachel didn't want that. So I did something that surprised even me. I forgave Alyssa. Not for her. For me. But that doesn't mean I let her off the hook. Because there was one last thing I hadn't done. Remember those Facebook moms she lied to? The ones she manipulated? I contacted every single one. I shared her real story. The lies, the abuse, the court case, the files. I didn't hide anything. I gave them the whole picture, even parts that made me look bad. Like how I froze at the hospital. How I wasn't the husband Rachel needed at the very end. Most of those women, they thanked me. A few of them even apologized. But one of them? Turns out she was a writer for a mid-sized parenting blog. She asked if she could write about it. No names. Just the story. I said yes. She published a piece titled, "When Grief Turns into a Weapon, a Cautionary Tale." It went viral. And even though no one knew Alyssa's name, she knew. And so did the people in her life. I know this because 6 months later, I got a letter. From her mother. Alyssa and Rachel's mom. We hadn't spoken since the funeral. I thought she hated me. But her letter said, "I read the article. I know who it was about. And I'm sorry. For all of it. I lost both my daughters, and I failed both of them in different ways. But I never should have let Alyssa near you after Rachel died. I should have seen what she was turning into. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed to say I believe you. And I believe Rachel would be proud of the way you protected her children. That was the first time I let myself believe I'd done something right. Alyssa's gone. Rachel's gone. But the kids? They're still here. Laughing. Learning. Growing up. We visit Rachel's grave every month. Dylan always brings something small, a drawing, a rock he found, a paper crane. Maddie talks to the headstone like her mom can hear her. And me? I finally took Rachel's old letter and framed it. It hangs in our hallway now. So I never forget. Not just the warning, but the love. And the strength it took for Rachel to trust me with our family, even when she knew she wouldn't be here to see it. Alyssa tried to take everything. She failed. And I made damn sure she could never come back.